I was skimming through more King Arthur movies than I could cover. I enjoyed reviewing the King Arthur and the Knights of Justice series. You should check out my video on that weird animation. And I had remembered that Disney made a TV movie loosely based off the Mark Twain novel A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court called A Night in Camelot. It starred Whoopi Goldberg. They say loosely, but I say 70% of the story was done in the film. And the changes they did, some of them were improvements. The original novel was more fantasy and darker. With the movie, it's more science fiction meets fantasy. The original had Hank Morgan get hit in the head and he gets transported to Camelot. The movie version wanted to make that, I guess, cooler. The character, now Vivian, invents a time machine out of a ball that transports her to the past. But not only that, they also went one extra step in making the time machine a part of the story. I have to comment on Whoopi Goldberg. We've seen her in lots of roles. Sister Act is probably her famous one. I liked her as Guinan in TNG, not to mention her voice work in Toy Story 3, Alice in Wonderland, the TV movie, I might cover that someday, and her in Lion King. But Camelot is one of the few times Goldberg plays a scientist. When you look at the cover and then you see Whoopi on it, you might think it's gonna be crap. It's this low-budget TV movie. She's just doing it to get a paycheck. I don't blame you. Disney was making a ton of crap in the late 90s and early 2000s. Remember their direct-to-video sequels like Mulan 2? That dumpster? But I gave it a chance. Honestly, if you throw in time travel, it's the easiest way for you to get me to watch something. One thing I really liked was that the movie was post-King. We've seen a dumb amount of King Arthur movies of him rising up to king versus starting out as king, so that was a nice change. I do have to mention, it doesn't focus on the sciencey part. The time travel element is only used to start the film. It's mostly medieval rest of the way. Now, there's two big changes done from the book. Vivian, of course, replacing Hank, and her background of a scientist working on this gravity machine. We don't get much time in the present, so it's the weakest part. We only get to see one friend of hers for like a minute, but the loss of the present is made up with the better characters in the past setting. As for Vivian's character, of course it's going to be a comedy. Goldberg does a nice job on this, and when she has to go into her nerd mode, she does okay. Some of the stuff makes no sense, but it sounds cool enough to get you through the initial start. She's basically making this gravity generator as a proof of concept. We don't really know what the goal of it is, but her grant's expiring, so she rushes to testing it, which sends her back to around 528 AD. The portal dumps her next to a tree with most of her desk junk right in front of King Arthur's kingdom. One of the knights sees this and captures her, assuming she's some sort of magic ogre thanks to her appearance and all the junk around her. I was kind of surprised at the movie. It's a light-hearted one, and it's filled with jokes all over the place. Vivian is commenting on everything, pointing out how everyone stinks or her unable to do anything because she's not in shape. It was their nod in not doing the fight in the book, but because she was seen as some magic beast, including Merlin telling everyone she's evil, they're just gonna burn her at the stake. Arthur and the others straight up don't give a crap about her casually being killed off, so it's somewhat historically accurate. I'm still surprised they did this, but there's a couple of jokes that history buffs will yell at the screen, not to mention having armor in 528 AD. Now, the way Vivian stops her death, good use of covering plot holes. I always hate it when a story cheaps out and goes, how convenient we guessed the right password in a few seconds, or you have the one item you needed to save your butt. Vivian checks her laptop, thank God for non-copyright Encarta history, and finds out there's a planetary alignment about to happen at noon. That's why she was brought to this year. She did create time travel, but it's very limited, a one-way trip needing a certain gravitational pull. I think also the writers wanted to have some fun because Vivian tries all her options, no matter how stupid, like a person would in a situation she's in, compared to like, say, Mulder in X-Files, never bringing a camera. How many times did he get screwed and was like, yeah, cameras and microphones don't exist? The eclipse happens on cue, so out of fear, Vivian is spared and becomes a Knight of the Round Table, now called Sir Boss. The second change is they made Queen Guinevere and Sir Lancelot into semi-villains of the movie. The book had originally ended with Hank making a gun and killing the knights, taking over, then dying in the end. There was no way they could do this, but they did keep as many elements from the book as they could. Guinevere and Lancelot were borderline having an affair behind the king. It almost felt like a G-rated version of Game of Thrones. The queen also wanted to uphold the ways of Camelot, which Vivian was trying to fix all the problems with, so she hated Sir Boss. The changes from the book did work in favor for one of the other characters, Clarence. I honestly liked him over all the characters, including Vivian. He started off as this thief who took whatever he could, taking advantage of Vivian about to be killed in the beginning of the film, but then when she did the whole eclipse thing, he became her assistant, then eventually her friend. She was teaching him things to learn, some science stuff, to stand up for himself. They played off each other in this mother-son relationship. Vivian wanted to stop slavery by making a machine that would grind up the flour instead of using people, but ended up using them like slaves anyway. The thing blew up thanks to Merlin sabotaging it. Viv became the new magician in his place, so of course he was going to be mad at her. She was so focused on forcing progress, everyone was starting to hate her. It took Clarence walking away from Viv for her to realize what she was doing. So it's not just about Vivian. And yeah, the first half of the movie doesn't really involve Arthur. They do give him enough time during the final act. Arthur in the film is played more strict by the rules. Not a horrible king or anything. He's like a mix between the Hallmark Arthur Merlin series and the Merlin TV series Arthur. Viv and Clarence do eventually hammer it out. I did like the subtle performances during the scene. Clarence is still a young boy, so some of his emotions is going into the "but mom" direction, but he also knows arguing and hating on Vivian isn't helping anyone either. It gives the movie a genuine family moment. Now, one of the action set pieces from the book was with Sir Sagramore. The book has a misunderstanding where he wants to fight Hank. In the film, it's because Merlin was helping him cheat during a jousting match. Viv was calling this out, so when Lancelot beat him, borderline humiliated him, he took it out on her, challenging her to a fight to the death. This change was good and bad. One, because they couldn't use the original ending, so the setting of the fight gets changed. But they integrated Clarence's backstory with Sagramore's. The man murdered Clarence's family because they were high people, and Clarence's sister wanted to marry a lower person. So now Clarence is torn. If Viv wins the fight, he loses his chance for revenge. If she loses, she's dead. Of course, it's a Disney movie, so it's not going to go that far. And obviously Viv can't fight him and win. So they do the next best thing, turn it into a joke fight where Viv is running around, making him fall because he's in heavy armor. She's not wearing armor. It's funny, but the scene could have been better. It takes place in the dining hall. That's stupid. Imagine having a sword fight in front of your dinner table. What do you think is going to happen? Besides that stupidness, the fight was fair enough. Viv gets in some hits, Sagramore makes her look like an idiot when she tries to kick him in the balls, and Clarence got a chance to get his justice, making him confess his crimes. And the movie's not even over yet. In the last act, they finally use Arthur and do the whole, "I'm gonna mingle in the poor people's world so I understand them better." The ending is mostly fine, but one thing really bothers me. While Viv and Clarence show Arthur the lands, the three of them eventually talk about Lancelot and Guinevere being fond of each other. No one outright says it, but they all know it. Then the movie finally shows it in a later scene while the king is gone. Lancelot confesses his love to the queen. To be fair, she doesn't kiss him, but openly says she wouldn't stop if she did. Then to make it worse, the three of them had gotten captured and were going to get hanged. Clarence got free and warned that Viv and Arthur were about to die. Now remember, Lancelot knows Clarence is righteous and doesn't lie thanks to the previous fight. The queen is outright telling Lancelot to not go. She's pulling a Cersei Lannister bit here. So Clarence is forced to save them on his own. He does, and they get back to Camelot. But this got me mad. Guinevere told everyone that the king was killed and was about to crown Lancelot as the new king when Arthur walked in. You'd think this action would have made Arthur question her trust, but it's freaking glossed over for the happy ending. They wanted to make the movie pretty realistic, but then had to wrap it up Disney style, so the climaxes all clashed. On top of that, the ending is kind of a downer. There was an actual twist. Merlin wanted Vivian to go back in time and help out Camelot. So he was the one motivating everyone to become better people. She does get sent back to the present, and they even have Merlin point out she can't stay there and give them all these advantages. You'd change history. And he also wipes Vivian from their memories. It's disappointing, but at the same time, Vivian gets to travel around the universe with Merlin. Besides them just ignoring what Guinevere and Lancelot were about to do to Arthur, this is a nice example of changes done to a book that are pretty good. If you're a fan of the book, you'll probably end up hating it for that. But if you watch it as a simple Disney movie, it's fine. I'm more shocked that they made a good TV movie when they were surrounded by a ton of bad stuff, not to mention a fun take on the Arthur story. Thanks for checking out the review. Subscribe if you want to see more, and if you remember a movie or a show that's long been forgotten, good or bad, leave it as a suggestion below. I'm always on the lookout for obscured stuff.